Well, I will say that question 3 about talking to my younger self about decision making really struck me, because as I've been going through all of these exercises, and I know that I'm an affirmer, and I know that my shadow is fear of rejection, and my conflict resolution style is avoidance or accommodating, I see how these decisions to be that way have really led to some outcomes in my life. So if I was to tell my younger self something, it would be to make the decisions, make the hard decisions, rather than trying to avoid it or letting somebody else to make the decisions for you. Because in my life, had I made decisions, I would have reached dreams and done a lot of things that I wanted to do on my own. And sometimes the outcome, when you let somebody else make decisions for you, will end up being a lot harder than if you actually had the courage to make the decision that you needed to make. That is what I tell myself.
I have chosen what advice to give myself, my younger self, about decision making. Personally, I would say to think more, feel less. I have been very emotion driven throughout life. I have taken intuitive decisions. Some have been good ones, some of them have not been, but I have learned from them. So I have no regrets of the things that I have done in my personal life. In my business, though, I have learned, or I would advise myself to be more courageous. I think sometimes I overthink things and don't do them, maybe because of fear of rejection, which is my affirmer shadow. I do look for mentors and people to guide me through, but sometimes knowing the answers and having the wish to move forward, sometimes I pause. I think one of the things that I have been learning throughout this course is I'm the type that would much rather fail and not feel guilty of not trying. So I think I will be moving forward, be more fearless in making those decisions, owning them, and have the courage to move forward and not hold projects for too long. I think that's where I'm at right now.
So I'll talk about what I know to be true of decision making. I think the first thing is just to trust intuition. Sometimes it can feel like it's not a real part of the decision making process, but it does come from somewhere inside of you and from the things that you know. I think too that there's two extremes, at least I tend to fall into, of either being really impulsive or, on the other hand, just dragging my feet depending on the decision. And usually the sweet spot is in between those two things. And then, just lastly, thinking about different decisions that have come my way and realizing that sometimes, when I'm really slow to make a decision, it's because, I've gathered the facts and I can't settle on a perfect solution. They all seem to have something wrong with them and you just want that perfect solution. But over time, I've learned that not making a decision is often worse than picking a solution or a decision that's not perfect. And so, when you get to that point, it's good to go ahead and give yourself a time limit and just to move forward.
So I'll answer the fourth question. How does my decision-making style compare to my conflict resolution mode? I would say they're both very, very similar because what I saw in my TKI assessment was that collaboration was the most dominant attribute that came out in terms of in terms of managing conflict. But when I look at making decisions and when I reflect, keeping that in mind, I see it's very important that I see, like, I bounce my decisions that this is what I want to do, and I check with people, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? And I'll talk to 30 people about it. so I would say it's an extreme collaboration that I do in terms of taking decisions. And um, at times the result is the same. Like I would say at least 70 to 80% of the times the decision is the same, but I don't know why. Why do I feel like having some sort of validation from others that, okay, what I'm doing is the right thing, or am I missing out on some aspects that I need to look at? Uh, so that is what I'd say. And I've seen that when I was more on the competitive side and not so much on the collaborative side in terms of my conflict resolution, uh, my decision-making style was very different. It was very confident. And I would say that, okay, I'm going ahead and deciding by this, and this is the decision I'm taking, and I'll stand by it. So I've seen, because competitive is the second most dominant trait that came out. So I see that depending on how my situation is, or the way I'm reacting to conflict, that is also impacting how I'm taking decisions in my life. Or I don't know if it's my decision making is impacting the conflict or that, but yes, there is a great similarity in how these both are intertwined for me.
So I'll go with the question number one. What do you know to be true about decision making? And this perspective is going to be just what do I know about myself and how I make decisions. So number one, I am so much like Jay on decision making. Like I have to talk to 20 people to get their perspective, or I don't know what it is, but that is something I do, and I'm very aware of it, and I don't know how to get out of it, to be honest with you. And so that's one thing about my business decisions. Whenever I want to do something at work, I will try to talk to a number of people to understand their perspective outside of meetings. And then, when I need to drive a decision, I have a lot of information I've collected to make the right decision, hopefully. That's one thing I know about work. Personal decision, some of the personal decisions, like, me wanting to go to college, I make it by myself, or me wanting to support my daughter to go to college, I will make those decisions by myself. But there are certain bigger decisions where I'm not sure about, then I definitely always go to some of the key family members to get their buy-in or their thoughts on. So probably that work suggestion, like the way of making decision, comes into picture then when I'm trying to make similar decisions at home. So that's what I know about myself about decision making.
I've made a lot of decisions in my life very intuitively, and then I've sort of figured out what to do, how to make them happen. When I decided to move from where I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, to the East Coast, nobody in my family understood it. They still don't like it, but it's 40 years later, so too bad. Anyways, so that was intuitive, and I had no idea. I had a job here, but that was about it. I had no friends. I really had no place to stay. I lived with my boss for a little while. But that's other decisions that I've made or haven't made very, very, what's the word? Decisively, or I've let them linger for a while, because I think what I learned now in my life is I didn't ask for enough help to decide what to do. And sometimes it was factual information, like, and I'd make a list. Okay. So I didn't, when I moved here, I didn't think, okay, where am I going to live? What am I going to do? I just did it. But I think the ones I'm doing now, particularly my business, I need information, and I need to ask people, and I need to not be afraid to ask people. And secondly, I think if I don't, then I start to compromise myself. I sort of talk myself out of it when I really haven't even made the decision. I haven't really put the time and the work into, okay, here's all the information I need to make a good decision, so I feel comfortable. But if I don't, then I'll just let it go, and I'll procrastinate and avoid it. So there's intuition in all that, but I think I have to go for more. And asking for information has always been hard for me. So that's what I would do. That's what I'm doing better. I wish I would have learned this, or I guess I think I knew it when I was younger, but I had the belief that people would think I was stupid or weak or reject me, so I didn't do it.
What I learned about decision making is to give yourself time to understand the issue, the problem, and gather enough information. Once you have all of that, think about how many alternative solutions, resolutions that you have, and then think about all the possibilities. Give yourself time, and then be confident when you make your decision. Don't regret your decision. Like, we all make mistake, and you always remember that you will learn from the decision that you are making, and also pay attention to the other people process of decision making and how they react if they make a bad decision, so you can learn from others as well. My advice to my younger self, don't stress, be fearless, and when you make a decision, own it. Before this class, when I make a decision and it is bad, I always be in a defensive mode, and I want to defend why I took that decision. And also, this is a little bit emotional for me, but I always hesitate when I make a decision, even in the small stuff. So since I started this, Kathy, I always make all the decision. If it was like simple dinner choice or weekend arrangement or whatever, I don't ask. I don't ask even when I want to buy an outfit or anything. I would just make a decision. That's it. I don't need anybody to help me with anything. Yeah, this is my decision making. Thank you.